Imagine two brilliant young men, restless and with an intellectual strength capable of shaking an entire generation. One was named Sariputra and the other Maudgalyayana. Both were born in ancient India, in Brahmanical families noted for their rigorous education and social influence. From a very early age, these lifelong friends began questioning the traditional explanations about the universe, life, and death. They felt that the answers inherited from ancient rituals were not enough. They wanted to go further and discover the root of existence itself. That burning curiosity united them as true twin stars seeking the same horizon. Their story is an extraordinary journey of friendship and spiritual quest that would soon take an unexpected turn. Sariputra was known for his enormous capacity for reasoning. He had the mind of a natural philosopher, able to dismantle arguments with simple yet forceful words. His peers saw him as a genius whose logic seemed like a river sweeping away any doubt. Maudgalyayana, on the other hand, stood out for his deep sensitivity, with an almost mystical ability to perceive the invisible. Together they were balance, reason and perception, intellect and inner vision. This pair drove them to become the most promising students of an emerging spiritual movement. Their names began to be spoken of as two enigmas that, sooner or later, would reveal a greater secret. And that secret would come in the figure of a man who would change history, Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha. Before meeting the Buddha, Sariputra and Maudgalyayana were disciples of a teacher named Sanjaya Belatthaputta. This teacher defended agnostic positions, avoiding committing to definitive explanations about life. However, soon these ideas felt insufficient to them. Both felt they had not yet found the ultimate truth. It was during that climate of searching that an encounter occurred which would change everything. One day, Sariputra saw a wandering monk walking with a serenity that left him speechless. It was Assaji, one of the first followers of the Buddha. Just by hearing a few brief phrases about the conditioned origin of all things, Sariputra realized he had found the right direction. That spark ignited a fire that would not go out. Sariputra's reaction was immediate. He ran to share his discovery with Maudgalyayana, the friend with whom he had shared everything, from childhood to existential doubts. When he heard the account, Maudgalyayana felt that this teaching resonated with what he had intuited his entire life. Without wasting time, they both decided to meet the Buddha himself. They presented themselves before him with humility, pledging their loyalty not only out of emotion, but with the certainty that they had found a unique master and an authentic path. From that moment, they left behind their role as wandering seekers and became devoted disciples. The Buddha recognized in them extraordinary potential and soon placed them as fundamental pillars within his monastic community. What makes the story fascinating is the perfect complementarity of these two disciples. Sariputra, with his analytical mind, was like a lighthouse for those lost in debates and doubts. He could dismantle wrong beliefs with such clarity that even the most obstinate ended up enlightened. For his part, Maudgalyayana developed supernatural abilities that seemed drawn from an epic tale. It was said that he could travel to invisible realms, communicate with celestial beings, or perceive hidden dimensions not visible to the eye. Together, they became a living example that reason and spirituality do not necessarily stand opposed, but united can lead to understandings impossible to reach separately. This union made them unforgettable. The Buddha trusted them so much that he called them his two great disciples. Sariputra was regarded as the wisest, and Maudgalyayana as the most gifted in spiritual powers. This distinction was not a whim, but a public recognition of their complementary greatness. When the monastic community faced complex questions, Sariputra was often the spokesperson who dispelled confusions. When they needed direct experiences of the unseen, Maudgalyayana was the most authoritative voice. Their influence was so strong that they became natural leaders, although they always remained faithful to the spirit of humility taught by the Buddha. The relationship between master and disciples was so solid that in many ancient accounts the three appear inseparable. A surprising detail is how Sariputra deployed his teaching skills. He did not use endless speeches or unnecessary embellishments. Short phrases and comparisons reaching people's hearts were enough for him. Imagine someone with the talent of a brilliant mathematician, but able to explain complex formulas with examples as simple as preparing a meal or lighting a lamp. His power lay in translating the profound into the everyday. That is why thousands came to listen to him, and many experienced a radical transformation after hearing him speak just once. The impact of his words made Sariputra a true architect of the most accessible spiritual understanding of his time. Meanwhile, Maudgalyayana amazed with aspects that seemed taken from a legend. The texts describe him as capable of flying, hearing across great distances, and even communicating with the dead. Beyond whether these powers were literal or symbolic, the truth is that they represented the strength of a mind and heart that transcended common boundaries. Most interestingly, he did not use these faculties to impress or aggrandize himself, but to guide others along the path of understanding. His humility was as great as his virtues, and that made him even more magnetic. People saw him as a doorway to unexplored worlds, but at the same time as a close friend. One of the most striking demonstrations of the bond between these two disciples occurred when Maudgalyayana, in a moving act, managed to free his mother from a painful fate in the afterlife, thanks to his spiritual practice. This story gave rise to what later became known as the Ulambana celebration, still alive in Asian cultures. There, filial gratitude and the act of helping loved ones even after death are honored. The tale was passed down through generations as proof that compassion can cross invisible barriers. Thus, Maudgalyayana became a symbol of filial love, showing that the power of awakening is not selfish, but seeks to free others as well. Although their talents seemed unsurpassable, both disciples also faced moments of great difficulty. Sariputra had to endure criticism and jealousy from other teachers who saw him as a threat. His serenity in the face of those attacks became an example of patience. Maudgalyayana, on the other hand, was the victim of a tragic destiny. Because of his teachings, he made enemies who physically attacked him to death. However, even in the midst of that suffering, it is said that he maintained a deep awareness of the impermanence of all things. Nothing could break his faith or his compassion. That combination of greatness and vulnerability made them even more human in the eyes of their followers. The end of Sariputra was also full of symbolism. Sensing that his death was approaching, he decided to return to his native village to die near his mother. This gesture revealed that even those who reach elevated states of spirituality do not forget their roots or their deepest bonds. It is said that in his final moments, his serenity was so palpable that those around him felt they were witnessing an almost luminous farewell. The calmness of his passing left an indelible mark on the community. The combination of tragic and serene endings in these two disciples shows how spiritual greatness did not keep them away from human pain, but rather they embraced it with full awareness. The legacy of Sariputra and Maudgalyayana expanded like ripples across a lake. Their teachings were preserved in texts that are still studied today in monasteries and universities. They represented two complementary facets of the human being: the analytical mind seeking order, and the sensitivity that opens doors to the invisible. They were not gods or unreachable figures. They were humans who demonstrated how far friendship and collaboration can go when guided by a clear purpose. Their influence was so powerful that they were remembered not as mere disciples, but as essential pillars of the Buddhist path. Even centuries later, their names are evoked to inspire spiritual leaders and modern thinkers alike. What is most striking is that their lives were not separate stories, but a joint tale of friendship that transcended the hardest trials. From childhood to old age, from their first steps as seekers to their deaths, they remained united in purpose. This duality carried an implicit teaching. No one advances alone, not even in the quest for awakening. The companionship of a true friend can sustain the path when doubts or difficulties seem insurmountable. That is why their story is not only about individual achievements, but about a bond of companionship so powerful that it ended up illuminating entire communities for entire generations. When their figures are evoked, many describe them as twin stars in the spiritual firmament of Buddhism. Each shone with their own light, but together they illuminated the darkest corners of the human mind with greater intensity. Sariputra offered immediate clarity. Maudgalyayana offered unsuspected depth. By uniting reason and vision, they left a model of collaboration that still fascinates because of its perfection. Their story is remembered not only for individual greatness, but as a striking testimony that friendship, loyalty, and shared quest are forces capable of transforming entire societies. Thus, the two names continue to resonate with the energy of the eternal, bringing inspiration to those who seek answers today.